Welcome to my kitchen. We are having pizza night tonight, so I'm going to be sharing with you my pizza dough recipe that I really like a lot of the texture and consistency this one gives. And I actually start this in the morning, so I have about 4 hours prior to us actually having pizza night to let the dough rise and be absolutely beautiful. So in here I have 1 cup and 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour. And then I'm gonna have 1 cup and 1 tablespoon of 00 flour. Really important to have the 00 flour for sure in this. And then we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of salt. Let me get that in there. And then we're just gonna set this aside for a moment. So I'm just mixing my dry ingredients. So I'll just set that there for a second. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna have just slightly under a cup. And in my recipe that if you go to on my website, I'll actually have this in grams and for you if you wanna be very precise as far as your measurements and weight. But I just found I don't always need to do that. But I have lukewarm water in here. I'm also gonna have my yeast. And we're gonna use about 3/4 of a teaspoon of dry yeast. And it's active dry yeast, so we just kind of put that in the water. And then we're gonna have sorry, I'm just looking real quick. 1 teaspoon of oil put in here. So I've got 3/4, so I'll just be a little zhuzh over that. And we're gonna mix that in. And what we're gonna do is just let that kind of mix in together, stir that up just a teeny bit. I'll just use this spoon to break up my yeast. Just a real light. So I'm just making sure all my yeast is broken up and has kind of mixed into my warm water. Going to take back my dry mixture here and just kind of do a very light mixture of your salt and the 2 flours together. We are going to pour and start mixing up this mixture. We will be kneading this afterwards and then letting it rest. And I'll have all the times and everything that I do in here, but I'm just mixing up. This is the time as I kind of do this first mixture that if I need, like I said, I was just under 1 cup of water, but I'm finding I'm gonna need just a little bit more put in here. So I'm just gonna pour just a couple tablespoons. Just work yourself very slowly into this, and we will be kneading this together in just a minute, but I kind of usually like to see how my consistency is going, if I need to add just a little bit more water at this point. So I'm gonna go just a little bit more and then I should be really good. So we're just gonna grab all the dough in the bowl. Just grab it a little bit with your hand so that you're picking up any of the little bits because we're gonna take it to the board to knead. We will be kneading it for 3 minutes. So just keep working. As you can see, as I kind of grab the dough, it all is picking up all the little bits in there before we take it out. So that's pretty good. Grab a little bit more, throw it in there. Just take onto a surface and again, just kind of roll it for a few minutes. And then we're gonna take the palm of our hand and knead this. We're gonna continue this for 3 minutes and we will cover and let rise for 15 minutes before we get to the next time that we will knead this dough one more time. So just keep rolling your hand in there, fold it over a few times, and just keep kneading it. And again, this will be for 3 minutes that we are going to be working on this. So we're back. It's been about 15 minutes. So what I did, by the time I cleaned up the kitchen and all that, I was totally good, and I just need to come back to my rested dough. What we're gonna do is take each section, or each set that I did. I ended up doing 3, by the way. I'm just gonna sit here and knead each one of these for about 3 minutes. We just need to kind of rework this dough. You'll feel that the consistency will be a little bit smoother for you to work with. Definitely more pliable. So these 2 resting times are really important. So the first resting time was 15 minutes. This time we're just gonna knead for about 3 minutes. Then we're gonna let this rest for about 4 hours, and that's when you'll be using your dough. I did want to share with you, and I will have this link on my Amazon finds, this pizza seasoning, which I love to season. Actually, the one I'm working is with the pizza seasoning in it. I absolutely love it just smells like pizza. So I actually just use that. And what I also do is I take my red sauce that I will be using for my pizza sauce, and I marry that into, to flavor up my red sauce a little bit. So I just take a can of tomato sauce, add about a tablespoon of my pizza seasoning, and that's what I also will be working with. So I kind of like that it's 2 for 1. But if you want to, there is no problem to take Italian seasoning. Add that to your dough, would be absolutely fabulous. If you just want it to be, you know, basil and oregano, that's good too. This one has like red peppers in it and basil. It's just really good. So I'm gonna work each one of mine here for about 3 minutes. And I'm getting there with this one to show you. So what we're gonna be doing, if you want to make a bigger pizza, you are gonna cut this in half and let it rise. You'll see later on how I set up my pizza stations. I usually do individual pizzas. So I'm gonna be cutting this into 4s so I can have more just individual servings. We do like to share everybody's kind of creativity. So what we'll be doing is just let everybody create their own pizza toppings on each one of these. And I'll be setting up my boards to have little stations of all kind of favorite toppings that you want to put on there. So it makes it kind of fun, and everybody likes to make their own pizza anyway. So that's how we do pizza night around here. But like I said, if you're just gonna make your own pizza and you're cooking it away, just cut this in half and then let each one rise, and you'll have a perfect pizza dough. We do have a pizza oven out there that we wood fired. I've seen some other really fun little ones that you can get in all different. So if you don't have that, don't feel like you can't do this. This is just the way we have it here. I do like though, if you are, this is work, so just get your muscle in there. I do like the grated pizzas, or the pizza stones are really good to get a really good crisp crust in here. So those are probably my 2 favorite. If I'm gonna do it in the oven, is really good. So what I've done is I worked this for about 3 minutes. And like I said, I'm gonna do mine in 4s, just because we do like more individual size. So I'm just gonna take this, divide it into 4s. And then what you're gonna do is we're gonna just kind of make these into balls and then shape them. I will be lining my pizza sheet here. I just lined it with parchment paper. I'm just gonna make 4 little ones, and I'll continue working. But we're gonna cover this and then let all this rise together. And then that's what you will be using. You don't have to do any more kneading or anything, but that's what everybody will be taking for us to roll out after it has been out for about 4 hours. So I'm just gonna continue working and get this rested, and we'll see you later on tonight. So we've been about 20 minutes waiting for the fire to get nice and hot out here, and you kind of want it between 600 and 800 degrees. And we use a gun, and right now we're just a little high, so we're just gonna leave the front of the cover off and just let it cool down a teeny bit, because the most you would want it would be 800 degrees. So we're gonna go in and you'll see my setup next. So this is the actual setup that I have for the kitchen. And as you can see, we have the pizza paddles ready to go. And under here, which I am gonna wait till the very last minute to show you, just because you don't want your pizza dough to come out, but that's what we've been working on. So I keep it covered while everybody's working. And then what I do is I do an assortment of meats. I have sausage and chicken and pepperoni, several cheeses. There's the red sauce that I worked into. I also have some barbecue because some people like the barbecue and pineapple. And then lots of vegetables and mozzarella. And in the center of my boards, I always have a little extra flour. So we'll actually be tag teaming. A couple people will be working right here to make their pizzas. And then I have some different types of mozzarella. I did some beautiful herbs, oils, pepperoncinis, some rosemary, chili peppers, Parmesan. So what they're gonna actually do is from here, they'll make the pizzas. They'll go out that door to the pizza oven and then come in. And this is what I consider my clean stage. This is where they'll actually bring in the pizzas, and this is where everybody will be grabbing to eat. So I kind of tiered my boards and they'll bring them into us. So at the end, I have our plates and napkins. So we're gonna get ready to start making our pizzas. I'm just gonna prep on how we're gonna start the pizzas. So I do keep this covered, but for right now, I'm just gonna keep it uncovered. I've made these into small sections. The less you work on your dough, the fluffier and kind of airier your pizza's going to be. So what you're gonna do is just kind of lightly pull. I do have rollers, but the more you just kind of just slowly let it stretch out by itself. And we're doing probably about 8-inch size we found kind of really works for control for how big the, how quickly it cooks out in the pizza oven. So we'll lay it out, and if you want, you can take a roller and kind of stretch it out. Again, the less you work on this pizza dough, the fluffier it will get. But this is a really good dough. We just found this is probably our favorite. And you want it thin, but not too thin. So I'm just gonna work this out just a teeny bit more. You definitely wanna make sure it does not stick to your board, because when we take it out to the pizza oven, we need to slide it really fast onto the hot, the bottom of the oven. So you just wanna make sure you're moving your dough around. We also found that the less sauce that you put on, that you don't get it too goopy. So we found that if you add the cheese first and then add your sauce on top of that, it does cook the crust a little bit better and gets it a little bit crispier. So I'm kind of done working on this. Just try to make it as even as you can, but don't get too worried about it. So we're just gonna, and if you wanna get precise, you can make it as circular, but we don't worry too much about it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna add some mozzarella on mine first, and just get a little cheese on there. You do wanna watch how much you're putting on around the corners. Not too much, because we're gonna let that kind of just get into the oven. So if the cheese melts over into the oven, it's a little harder to pull out of the oven. So I am actually gonna take a little bit of my sauce and dabble that on. And then it's really the fun of it. I did find too, like we really like, and a lot of this will melt through when it all goes through, so don't get too carried away with too much sauce, but I would say that'd be about the most I would want. I personally like a little bit of olive oil around my ends because I like my crust to be a little bit of olive oil. And I'm just gonna grab some beautiful fresh basil leaves from over here and mozzarella, so I'm making more of a caprese. So I'm gonna lay that on top. And I think the fun part of all this is everybody can kind of just create their own pizzas. Some of our funnest creations of just people throwing things on. And so I just really like my basil. And I'm gonna do some fresh Parmesan on top of that. And that to me is my pizza. So I've got a little bit of mozzarella and Parmesan. So I'm gonna just do a teeny bit of pepper. And I am good to go to the oven. have your first wood-fired pizza. Usually I cut it into smaller because a lot of us just like to taste everybody's creations.